Welcome to the Flex Rental Solutions webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the storage and container processing option that you have on your warehouse menu. So this is a pretty simple screen. You'll just go to your warehouse menu, click Storage Container Processing, and really what this does is show you every storage container item that you have in your system that is not currently complete. So before we actually start doing some of that, let's just look at a few concepts about storage containers, what storage containers mean, how they can function within Flex, and then we'll come back to this screen and kind of show how this can be used day to day. So a storage container is exactly how it sounds. You can set up inventory items in Flex that represent shipping cases or different types of containers that you can put items into. And then within Flex, you're able to actually scan items into that shipping case or a container. So as an example, the one that I have highlighted here, we'll just look at that. I have an item in my system. It's a Mackie 450. That's a powered speaker. Now these speakers typically would come in a case or a bag or something like that. But let's say that I have a small shipping case that carries 2 of these speakers. Now the reason why we implemented this idea of shipping containers and cases inside of Flex is because we want people to be able to use Flex in a way that you typically use inventory and deal with inventory in your warehouse. So imagine this. If you have a bunch of these, maybe you have 20 of these Mackie 450 speakers and they're all inside cases. If you're sending all 20 of those to a job and you want to be able to scan out all 20 of those, you would have to pull them off the shelf, open the case, scan the barcodes, close the case, put them on the truck. So you can imagine how time-consuming that might be when you have lots of these different types of items. This could go for projectors, for lighting, anything that could go into a case or shipping container could potentially be an item that we're talking about here. So what we've done is we've given the ability to add shipping cases into your system as inventory items. And if we look at the inventory item settings for this shipping container, you can see that the preset is set up as a serialized storage. That basically just means that this item is tracked by serial number, yes, meaning that each individual unit that we own is going to get its own barcode. Unit container is set to yes, meaning that each unit of this item can be considered a container. It can receive other items into it. And then this also says that contents are available. So if I scan something into one of these cases, the items that I scanned into the case will still show as available in availability calculations. This just means if I were to put these Mackie 450s on a quote and all of them are scanned into cases, I'm not going to get a conflict saying that they're not available because I have contents available set to yes. So we're not going to go through all the different types of package and storage containers here. I have a couple other webinars and videos on our YouTube page where you can learn more about that. But I just wanted to show some of those basics so that we can understand what we're dealing with when we go to that storage container processing screen. So looking at our shipping case, we have a variety of serial units here. And if we open any of those serial units, then you can see the storage requirements that are supposed to be scanned into this case, and we can see how many we've actually scanned into the case. Right now we can see this is an incomplete container. Going back to the parent model of the Mackie 450 shipping case, you'll notice that we have what we call storage requirements. These are things that you're just going to drag and drop into the storage requirements area here. So let's remove these items really quick just so I can show you how we do this from scratch. Oh, I have to select them first. One thing that you'll notice now that I've removed the storage requirements from the tab here on the parent model screen, if I go and open one of the units, in fact, let's just go back to the one we were working on and reload. when I look at the Contents tab now, it's not showing me what the requirements are for this case because I took those storage requirements away. But if I go back to the parent model, go to storage requirements, and I say, for a Mackie 450 shipping case to be complete, I need Mackie 450, so I'll drag and drop that in and say that I need 2. And then also I like to put my IEC cables in there too, so let's search for an IEC power cable and say that I also need 2 of those. And you can put anything else into this case or container if you want. Let's say, for example, if you have a similar speaker case, but maybe you also put rigging hardware in there. If your rigging hardware is set up as an inventory item in your system, then you can drag and drop that into the storage requirements of the case. I don't think I actually have anything set up in my speaker rigging section here, but you get the idea. Or just any other type of accessory that you would put inside of that case, whether it be XLR cable. In fact, we could do that now. Let's go to our audio cable, XLR, and let's just say that we always send these with 2 10-footers, 2 25-footers, and 2 50s, just to make sure that we're covered. So those are our storage requirements. So now when I open any of these serial units, the Contents tab is going to show the storage requirements that I set up with a quantity of how many I've actually scanned into this case so far. And as you can see, I've scanned 0 of all these into this case. So this case sitting out in my warehouse, 00482 barcode, technically, at least according to Flex, doesn't have anything in it. Now, of course, in real life, all of these items could actually be in there, but I just haven't built them into Flex yet. So let's pretend I'm going out into my warehouse, and I want to say that I find this case, so I go find 00482, and just as a quick little shortcut, a lot of people don't know this, if you're on the calendar screen, you can either enter or scan a barcode, and that will open up that barcode, and if it's a serialized storage or serialized package, it will automatically open to the Contents tab, so you can start building the items that go inside of it. So there are a couple ways that you can build a shipping case's contents. Number one, if you have serialized items, like this Mackie 450 speaker, then what you'll do is just either type in or scan the barcodes of the items that are inside. So I'm just going into my Mackie 450 inventory model because I want to find a couple barcodes that I could scan into that container. So let's go with 01123 and 24 because it looks like they're both in my warehouse and they're not currently inside of any container. So again, those are 1123. So I'll go back to Content Builder mode for this case and say I'm scanning the speaker that's inside of that case. And of course I could use a barcode scanner too. If these have barcodes on them, that I could just be on this screen and scan the barcode of the item that's sitting inside of the case. So essentially what I'm doing here is just saying the way that this case is built in real life, I'm just building it here in Flex to represent what's actually inside of it. Now the rest of these are non-serialized items, so I could do one of two things. I could either build a cheat sheet that has all of these barcodes on it and then scan those barcodes and enter the quantities, or I could just double click and Flex is going to ask, do you want to execute a virtual scan for this item, yes or no? And then just enter the quantity. So of course I'm going through and actually verifying that these items are inside of this case before I do this. But that's just a quick way that you can do it with virtual scanning like this. And so you'll notice that once I've fulfilled all the storage requirements, this turns green, just letting me know that you now have a complete container. And then that's where this idea of the storage container processing comes into play. When I go to this page, it's going to show me every single case, storage container, or whatever you call them in your system, it's going to show me all of them that currently are not complete. So any case that has storage requirements, and if we open it, you'll see that the full amount of storage requirements are not complete. So those are really the requirements to get something to show up on this warehouse storage container processing screen. So number one, the item has to be set up as some sort of shipping container, which means that unit contents has to be yes. And then also it needs to have storage requirements set up. So again, that was in the model settings. And you go to the storage requirements tab to set those up. And then finally, an actual unit, so one of the barcoded units that belongs to that parent model, needs to have incomplete storage requirements. Those are all of the requirements that will make an item show up on the storage container processing screen. So the use case scenario here being, maybe you just had a bunch of gear come back from a job, and typically when you're scanning these case items back in, you scan the case, the items will be removed, and then you rebuild the case because you're never going to be 100% sure that the exact same items came back in the same case that they went. So you would scan the case in, you would scan all of the items in individually, and then you would rebuild the case. That's the typical process. But really what this storage container processing screen does for us is it gives us an extra check. So let's say that maybe you're a warehouse manager and all of the jobs that just came back from over the weekend just came in. So it's Tuesday morning, you don't have anything else that got scanned out, or at least very little that got scanned out. And you just want to double check that everyone in your warehouse actually rebuilt their containers properly. So as you can see in my example, it looks like we did a pretty bad job because I have quite a few of these items that show up on the storage container processing, which again just means that these are incomplete containers. So let's open one of these. Let's go with 00480. And let's just build this container. And I'm just going to take a wild guess and assume that 1125 is going to be another Mackie speaker. Lip. Let's just go up from there. Okay, good, that worked. And then for the rest of these, of course, we'll just do a virtual scan. And again, like I said, you could either virtually scan all these by double-clicking, or you could enter the model barcode, or if you have a cheat sheet, then you could just scan that model barcode. So really just several ways that you can add non-serialized items to a container. Personally, I prefer the cheat sheet method, but I don't really have any cheat sheets set up for this webinar, but it's usually the fastest way to do that. So now we've fulfilled the storage requirements for 00480. Let's go back to storage container processing and watch. 00480 right here that's highlighted, when I refresh, that disappears from the list. So then I can move on and go to the next one. Now, of course, I'd probably want to be down on my warehouse floor doing this, so I would look at my storage container processing, find one that shows up on the list, double-click to see why it's not complete, and then actually go find that case in my warehouse, open it up, and double-check, because maybe there's just actually nothing in it, and that's why it's not complete. Or maybe it just did not get rebuilt properly, so if you open this case and see all those items in there, then you would just go through and scan those items in the content builder mode here. So that's the storage container processing feature. Again, that's found on the warehouse menu, and it shows all case, shipping case, or anything that is a unit container yes that has storage requirements. It will show any of those items that don't have complete storage requirements built in the content builder mode. So I hope you find that useful. Like I said, if you want to learn more about shipping cases and setting items up as containers and things like that, I have some other good webinar videos on our YouTube page. So if you just go to the help menu, click Flex YouTube channel, you can either search for like serialized storage or serialized package, Or we have some playlists as well that you can utilize. So if you look at the playlists, and I believe I have one that is specifically for containers and packages. Packages and containers, and then you can view all the videos there. So that's where you can go if you want to learn more about packages and containers and things like that. If you have any questions about this functionality of the storage container processing, then you can email support@flexrentalsolutions.com.